What are some of the mistakes that people make on the equipment side when they're starting out or
Yeah.
expanding?
Yeah. So I would say anybody starting a brewery and they're people where you're like, man, I know they're going to do well, but um, let's be open minded. And I say that because, with Blickman, we've been on the homebrew side for, over 20 years now.
Mhm.
And so we have a lot of homebrewers who are starting their own breweries, which is awesome. In fact, that's really how we got on the pro side. We just had so many requests, people that wanted us to make that larger equipment.
Sure.
And so the mistakes I see people make, size of the equipment is a big one. And what you'll find is we're in a weird niche. So caveats apply here, Adam. I'm just going
Sure,
to get
sure.
that out of the way
Yeah,
up front.
yeah.
We specialize in smaller equipment. And what we found is a lot of the other equipment manufacturers, if they can sell a 30 barrel and that's a $400,000, equipment sale, they don't want to mess with a 3 barrel that's a $50,000 sale because they're going to end up putting about the same amount of work and effort into it. So why pick the $50,000 sale? They don't want that. And so when I go to, like, we used to go to NanoCon when it was in person, now I know it's online, and you sit down with some of these breweries who are getting ready to start up. They're trying to figure out what size equipment. Everybody tells them buy as big as you can afford, buy the biggest equipment you can
Sure.
afford. Well, the reality is it really depends on your business model. And what I see is people get very fixated when they come into this with how they want to do things. And so I think being open minded is the biggest one because you need to listen to your customers. You're brewing what they want to drink, not what you want to drink, which is a big difference.
Mhm.
And when you're looking at your sizing of equipment, really evaluate what is my client base? What am I after? How many turns do I want to do every single week? And how many beers do I want to have on tap? You want something new and fresh in your brewery. When you're brewing on a 30 barrel, I imagine that's a little tougher, Adam. I
Yeah.
don't,
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
don't, I mean, I
Yeah,
have no
yeah.
idea how many barrels of beer you guys go through, but when I see people oversize equipment, you'll talk to people who brew once every 2 weeks.
Mhm,
Well, your equipment's not the right size then,
mhm.
you know?
Absolutely,
Well,
absolutely.
we get a lot of people, and everybody has their different styles, but we get a lot of people who, when they go into brewing, it's not a hobby anymore.
Mhm.
And what you do in a 5 gallon system at home is not the way you brew on the big system
Sure,
because your objective is different at
sure.
that point, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so we get people who, they want to do step mashing, they want to do, all kinds of different things at the pro level. And when the volume's larger, it's not that it's not feasible. It just takes significantly longer to do some of those things.
Sure.
And when it becomes a job, I don't it's important to enjoy what you do, but I
Mhm.
don't know a lot of people, Adam, who say, "Man, I wish I could spend another hour or 2 at work every day." You
Sure.
know?
Those hours stack up, man. I remember
They
when
do, in a
when I
hurry.
started when I started at Cartridge, it was a used, specific mechanical, and they
Yeah.
bought it from a German, chain pub,
Mhm.
place that had shut down. And listen, it's a great system. It was great equipment.
Yeah.
I really liked their stuff, but it was set up to mash into the kettle and then pump that mash over the lauter ton, right?
Ah, yep.
And I say, hey, listen, I need you to cut a hole in that lauter ton, and I'm gonna be doing, and I'm not mashing into the kettle because you know what I mean. And
Oh,
especially
yeah.
especially at a point where, okay, so I'm working for that company. I do not own that company.
Mhm.
I don't. If I'm brewing 150 times a year, those
Yep.
hours start adding up. An hour and a half to 2 hours every time I do that. Next thing you know,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
spending a lot less time at home than you want to be. And so yeah, I think that's an interesting angle on it for
Yeah.
sure.
And I'm sure you and Brad Smith might get into this, but I mean, um, we've come a long way in the brewing world from, like, how grains are modified, and I mean, all that whole side of things, but a lot of the brewing practices that you practice as a hobbyist, were based on things from a long time ago
Mhm,
that now necessarily aren't the case.
mhm,
And so the same thing is true at a brew pub as it is making equipment.
mhm,
So we have to listen to our customers and make what they want.
mhm.
And what we can't afford to do is make what we want the way we want
Sure,
all the time.
sure.
It's got to be about what does your customer want. And so it's the same when you go to make beer. When you took that extra hour and a half to 2 hours of brew day, Adam, are they going to taste the difference?
That's the question,
You
right?
know, and
That's
and
the
it's
question.
and it's the $1,000,000 question, and I see so many guys really struggle with that when they're looking to go pro is, they wanna do it exactly like they did on their 5-gallon setup, and
Mhm,
and sometimes you can, but sometimes you'll find it's really not beneficial, so I say have an open mind, you
mhm,
know, and not only listen to what your customers wanna drink, but then quality. You know, I used to go, to one of the local breweries every Friday, and there's a couple brewers would meet me there, and we just drink a few beers. Whatever they
mhm.
were working on that week, they'd bring. We do some tastings, give each other feedback. It was the coolest thing, and they were both very open-minded. They very
Sure.
much wanted to get better at their craft, and that's how they went after it. You know, I get a lot of people who want to start a brew pub, but the focus is so much on here's how I've done it. The people that were drinking my beer really liked it, so I've
Mhm.
gotta keep doing it that way, and they don't wanna hear their beer's not good,
Sure.
and it's not a matter of telling somebody, it goes back to the leadership part where we talked about having those honest conversations. You know, they're important, but you also have to have the right people who are willing to receive on the other end. They're willing to actually hear out that conversation,
Sure.
to learn from it, because the goal is to make better beer, man. I mean, that's
Mhm,
really the goal,
mhm,
and that feedback is incredibly important. So, when I see places struggle, they go into it with a mindset of, you know, I'm going to do it the way I did it at home. I'm going to make the beer I want to make.
mhm.
And they don't want the feedback. If somebody tells them their beer's not good, they don't want to hear it. And um, it's unfortunate. You know, I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah.
It's tough to get through to those people sometimes. And it's like, man, I know you've got it in you to make really awesome beer. A little feedback can make all the difference in the world.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you feel as if you got any value out of the video, please like and subscribe. There are also other videos that you can watch. They're gonna maybe be over here or over here. Appreciate you watching.